Mitch, Sam Howell is a Seattle Seahawk. Is this an emergency pod?
Absolutely, it's an emergency pod. Whenever major quarterback news happens, it's an emergency pod. And regardless of what you think of Sam Howell's future here in Washington, he was your starting quarterback all last year. And the fact that he's being shipped out to Seattle absolutely makes this an emergency pod.
Well, yeah. And you know what? Like, I really like Sam, the person. I grew to really like him, got to know him a little bit, spent some time with him away from the locker room, whatever. He showed real flashes of being a guy that could matter, a guy that could change stuff. And I think now that he's gone, we're kind of going to remember that. Like, you break up with a hot girl and you kind of remember the poached eggs, right? But like there were plenty of bad situations too. Like I think from a straight up football perspective, now we can debate Howell versus Mariota. Maybe we need to get there. But the way I view this is a win-win. I think Sam gets a real shot that he deserves in Seattle, whether it's immediate or it's over time. Like, I don't think Geno has a stranglehold on that job. And I think contractually, they probably don't have anything strangled for 25. And I think Howell gets to get there, show he can hang in the locker room, be a good dude, and then slowly show what his game is like. And I think we did see flashes last year of real, I'm not going to say greatness, but real goodness.
Goodness.
Yeah. And I think that offense last year was so ill-equipped to develop a young quarterback. They really had no run game. In turn, they have no play action. Everybody screamed about the receivers not getting separation. You know what helps receivers get separation? Play action. It's not rocket science. I don't know why I touched my brain for rocket science. Maybe because my ears look like rockets. Howell, though, also slipped in the draft. There's a reason he was a fifth rounder, because people were worried he held onto the ball too long and turned it over too much. And by the end of the year, he held onto the ball too much and turned it over too much. Like, don't forget, they were going to Jacoby, and then Jacoby hurt his hamstring. I think it's a win-win, because I love that Peters, and you're going to tell me how it's actually a fourth, whatever. We can work through the machinations of the pick swap. But I think the value in getting another third rounder, now you're talking about number two twos, 3 threes, that has real value. I think Peters did really well there. When they draft that kid at 2 and he throws a pick, you don't need the Howell crowd, the Howell Hive, the Howlers going crazy. I wish the absolute best to Sam. And if he becomes a star one day, that is yet another kick in the gut for Burgundy and Gold fans. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. And I think this is the best course for the Washington organization right now, I think.
I agree with you. It is a win-win. It's certainly a big win for Sam Howell, because he had no future here in Washington. I think for the organization, there was value to holding on to him. I understand, moving on from him. Your talk about the Howell Hive and the backup quarterback being yelled at, I think there's 20 years, 30 years of PTSD from Commanders football, Redskins fans, where you had people in leadership roles, in decision-making roles, who did react to what the fans said, who called into JP's radio show, who tweeted about X, Y, and Z. They made moves based on what the fan base was saying. And I think now, at least early on, you have Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, who are aligned, like you said, which is extremely important. I don't think they're going to be influenced by, the noise, if you will. And
no argument there, but you and I both saw it. When you have 2 young quarterbacks, it can create factions in the locker room. And that, to me, isn't worth having if you're going to spend this kind of pick. Dude, we saw it. We saw it with Robert and Kirk. We saw it. And then, dude, when Dwayne was playing, there were people that knew he shouldn't be, right? Like,
I disagree with you.
Wait. Which part do you disagree with? That didn't happen with Robert and Kirk?
That happened with them, but you had no leadership at all, either both in the locker room and, well, not in the locker room, but in amongst ownership and GM and head coach when that was happening.
Bruce couldn't handle all that.
Yeah, Bruce. The fact of the matter is, they did well by Sam. He has an opportunity to go out there and back up Geno and learn, and hopefully get out there and play. But
I think he gets to compete to be number 1. But if Geno's struggling, I think this is a really good position for him.
It's a great position for him. I think they did better by him than they did for themselves, because I think there's more value in having Sam on the roster, because you talked about last year this team being ill-equipped to develop a young quarterback, both in scheme and in personnel. I'm concerned that this thing could go south real quick if the number 2 pick isn't good or doesn't play well right away, because Mariota doesn't have a whole lot left in him, in my opinion.